Okay, hello YouTube. Today's video discusses the death of Kayden Clarke. Kayden Clarke was a trans man who lived in Arizona who was shot to death by police responding to a suicide distress call at his home. Now, the police had known and it had actually responded to a suicide distress call at that residence before. I don't know if the responding officers actually knew this or not. But the police department line appears to be that at some point during the confrontation inside the house, Kayden lunged at them with a knife. They feared for their safety and they shot him dead. Now, let's just presume that there is no wrongdoing here on the part of the police and that they were honestly responding to a suicide distress call, felt threatened, and killed him. Because, police brutality is its own separate subject that could be discussed ad nauseum. So for the sake of argument, let's just say that this is one of those above the board, completely legit situations, even though I, think at a minimum, there's probably a lack of training within police departments to deal with patients who have mental health conditions like Kayden, because Kayden actually had Asperger's and a variety of other mental health conditions, and I'm pretty sure that the police are insufficiently trained to deal with people like that. I'm pretty sure that they're probably also insufficiently trained to deal with people who are trying to commit suicide by cop. So whether or not Kayden was actually trying to do that here, I'm not sure. That's my personal opinion. I think that's what happened. But let's not focus on the police aspect of this, although that is certainly worth investigating and ensuring that no wrongdoing happened and that the police receive the training that they need so that they can prevent these types of things hopefully from happening in the future, because I'm sure that most police officers don't feel good about killing someone in any situation, because you don't want to have to do that, even if it is justified. I think most people would probably prefer to de-escalate the situation otherwise. So let's give the cops the benefit of the doubt and focus instead on the other part of the story, which is really discussed a bit in Kayden's YouTube videos that I'll link to right here. Because basically I think the reason for the sort of suicidal depression is not these other mental health conditions, but the fact that those mental health conditions were preventing him from getting access to medical transition. So he was basically told that he needed to cure his Asperger's first before the doctor would, or that the therapist would write a letter for him to start testosterone. Asperger's is not really a curable condition. It is something that you can certainly treat and mitigate some of the symptoms of, but it's not something that you can make go away. So if you have gender dysphoria to the point of a suicidal history, being told that you have to cure that first before you can start transition probably sounds something like a death sentence. And I think that is what the really unfortunate part of this story is that so many people are going to focus on the fact that he was misgendered in the news after his death, even though all of his legal papers would have had his old identity and gender on them. So I understand that the news should go back and pick that up immediately and change its reporting accordingly, but you can understand why they made the mistake in the first place. They're going to focus on the actual killing itself, whether or not the police were justified, or the fact that the police weren't. And they're not going to focus on the fact that a trans person who had mental health conditions didn't have access to medically necessary care. Because if you look at probably a good portion of trans suicides, I assume that they're not because of a single issue or being trans itself. there because sort of the series of events lines up in such a way to make a trans person feel helpless, hopeless about their future. And we need to do something about that to prevent this from happening again. To properly honor Kayden Clarke's life the way we didn't while he was alive.